Yes. Well, look, first I gotta say, we need to have a talk with Justin afterwards, because that's a lot of hot guys that you guys are gonna follow. I don't know how I'm supposed to compete with that, but yes, so I'm Chris Maurice, CEO of Yellow Card. We are the largest licensed stablecoin payments infrastructure provider for emerging markets. So we operate across Africa, parts of Southeast Asia, South America, Middle East, and we help companies like Visa, PayPal, large banks, large financial institutions use stablecoins to actually facilitate payments in these markets, right? Do something that matters with those tokens. And yeah, look, got into Bitcoin quite early back in 2013. Fell fully down the rabbit hole and decided, this is what we're doing with the rest of our lives. Tried a number of things in the States, none of them worked, most of them were hilarious. And what we landed on was putting a gift card in CVS, Walmart, places like that. You'd walk in, buy this gift card, redeem it for Bitcoin. Started building that out, and then met this Nigerian man at a Wells Fargo in Auburn, Alabama, the capital of innovation, who was sending $200 to his family, and the bank charged him $90 to send $200. And I thought, well, that's insane, right? So I talked to this guy. Hey, you heard of Bitcoin? It's free, it's instant, it's fun, all this great stuff. And went home and just started thinking, well, what's this guy's mom gonna do with $200 in Bitcoin? Right? You can't buy food with that, you can't pay rent with that. What problem is this actually solving? And so I don't think I knew where Nigeria was on the map at the time. They don't teach you nearly as much about Africa as you guys might expect in the Louisiana education system. I know that might be hard for you here. But just started doing all this research and trying to understand the country and the concept of currency and the banking system, and realized if I want to understand Nigeria, I need to speak to somebody from there. And so put out an ad online that said, looking to speak to Nigerian men.
It was a different time.
Well, let's just say they didn't want to talk about banking. And so, I ended up meeting this guy. This was about the point in my life where I learned that Nigerians are the most convincing people on the face of this planet. Because within a month and a half of meeting this Nigerian man on the internet, he convinced me to go get a passport and take the first international flight of my life. Landed in Lagos, Nigeria on a 6-day-old passport, no visa, no shots, and one-way ticket that we spent all of our money on. So the options very literally were build something that works or live in Nigeria for the rest of my life. And I think the big turning point for us. So we started out as a retail exchange, and 2020 going into 2021, we listed USDT. So the largest stablecoin in the world. We listed USDT as an option, and at this time we were 99.9% Bitcoin. Right. Within 1 day of having USDT on the platform, that was 30% of transactions. Within 4 months, it was 99% of transactions. Right. Everybody had switched over to USDT, right, and to using stablecoins. And so that's what really got us, reevaluating. What is it that people are actually doing with with the money, right, with the tokens? And the more that we dug into it, the more that we realized, it's not about Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin's great, but it's about the dollar, right? People and businesses need the dollar. They need better ways to access the dollar, better ways to use the dollar. What I always like to tell people is, if the dollar were a startup, it would have failed years ago, right? Like the user experience of the dollar sucks. Like, it's not a fun currency to use, especially for international payments, right? You have correspondent banks, and everything has to go through New York, and everything has to work on American banking hours, and this and that. And all of this for what is the most important currency in the world, right? It's still 90% of 90% of global trade, 90% of invoice settlement, et cetera, is all running through the dollar. And nobody has bothered to fix the experience of using the dollar for generations now. And so stablecoins are the first technology that actually does that. And that is so important for these businesses operating across emerging markets where the banking systems are just not set up to be able to properly handle the dollar.